I do want to also commend them for actually being home and watching. Um, this is turning out to be a pretty decent Saturday morning. Everyone could be here. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and kind of get us started a little bit and move on into things, and maybe some other folks will show up. As I was driving over here, the thought occurred to me because there's that piece of me, and I've shared this with people who've been in classes with me. There's that piece of me that I am still working with. It's called the fraud complex. Anyone familiar with the fraud complex? Fraud, F-R-A-U-D. Not the F-R-O-G. Not the F-R-O-G, but I'm glad you mentioned that. We're going to talk about that later, actually. But the fraud, F-R-A-U-D complex, the fraud complex, that one day they will realize that I don't know what in God's name I'm doing, and then they will run me out of town. I got a whole book written about it, the fraud complex, yes. So on my way over here, the fraud complex committee, which sits dormant in the back room of my mind and tends to walk out sometimes, says, what if nobody shows up today to your workshop? What if there's only, because I heard like last week there were 20-something people, and I was like, well, what if only like 5 people show up to this thing? And I said to the fraud complex committee, well, there's a couple things. If only 5 people show up, I will take that as the highest form of compliment. We've seen that dude already. We don't need to see him again. We love him and we like him. Yay. So that's the attitude that I'm walking in with. Yes.
Okay, so streamers have.
Yay, streamers. Hi, streamers.
And Amy has some information.
Okay. Well, wait, hang on. We got to start with prayer.
Okay.
That was all of that preamble was my prayer preamble. That was my prayer preamble to get, as I saw people walking in. So yes, welcome. You're just in time for the prayer. You missed the preamble, but that's okay. It was a good preamble too. So if you don't mind, let's take a moment for prayer. And if it works for you, if you're willing to put everything out of your lap so you're not distracted by holding on to something, ground both feet on the floor. I would, but I'm a little high up here right now. But ground both feet. Just rest your hands in your lap, palms. This is a symbolic open, to be receptive, to be surrendered to the Spirit of the one power and the one presence that we call first. It is the essence of us. We are open of what that would have for us and reveal about us. Consciousness for unity on the river now is getting to know who may be its next minister. Alrighty, Amy, announce away.
Streamers, you get to play too. If you go onto the home page, the arrow at the very top, you'll see that there's a page that says awesome. Click on that, and that's going to bring you onto the survey, and you'll be able to play along and evaluate today's workshop and the other workshops as well. Is there anything else I need to add, Jane? Yes.
Thank you. Oops, sorry. So we do have these two evaluation surveys that we've been using. One is for the Saturday workshop, one is for the Sunday talk and Q&A session. I just got those loaded up onto the website so that streamers can have access to them. Like Amy said, if you go to the home page, the upper left corner in the slider section, there's a image that's an evaluation, starts with awesome. Click on that. It takes you to a page that has, at the bottom of the page, has a link for the Saturday form and for the Sunday form. So you have to click on the link to get to the actual evaluation, and it may download, depending on what level of Windows you're running, you'll see it eventually. That's it, thank you.
Any more announcements, or is it me now? I think it's me now. It's me now. Thank you for your applause. I don't agree with it yet, but just hold on. You just never know how this might turn out. I do want to say to you and to folks who are watching, if perchance you are not able to make it tomorrow to Sunday service, and you have not had an opportunity to hear me speak before, I have plenty of talks online. The most recent ones are at unityofgaithersburg.org. That's unityofgaithersburg.org. Click on the video tab, or if you just want to download an MP3. If tomorrow after the talk you go, yeah, and you want a different experience, go there as well. So, welcome. Today's workshop is called the Prosperity Intention. And usually what I do in workshops is I do a little bit of an icebreaker where I go around and get to know everyone's name and a little bit something about them. This is a fairly larger group that usually happen when I do Unity workshops. And I am a fan of getting you out of here on time or even early. No one ever complained that a workshop got done too early, okay? So that's going to be my goal. So I'm going to do things a little bit in reverse today. I'm going to jump into the workshop material and do my best to set aside time at the end, if you will, to get to know a little bit more about you. And I probably will during the course of the workshop. So we're going to do things a little bit in reverse, because my goal is that at 12:00, I'm saying amen for a closing prayer, okay? I'm from Barbados originally, and we have a much more relaxed attitude about time, but at the same time, no pun intended, it is important to honor the agreements we've made from a time perspective. So, we're going to jump right in. The prosperity intention. So this is something that I have worked with my entire life, this concept of prosperity and abundance. We hear about it in Unity a lot. How many of us have done a prosperity class like 4T or Keys to the Kingdom, or what's another one you might have done? Right, Prosperity Plus. We've all kind of done these prosperity workshops, and the idea of them is to really shift our consciousness. And I've taken a few of them. You know what 4T stands for? Anyone remembers? Right. You know what else it stands for? 4 times. Because that's as many times as I had to take it to really begin to get it. 4 times. Yeah. It's a long program. It's 12 weeks. The first time I took it, I was checked out by week 4. I don't know what happened the rest of the weeks. The second time, I made it to week 6. Third time, week 8. The fourth time, I got all the way through. Like I was actually present and attentive to the whole thing all the way through. It's a long program. You know, Prosperity Plus is 10 weeks long. Keys to the Kingdom, I think, is like 6 or 7. and there's a lot of content. And I said to myself, what is the one thing that each of these workshops, each of these approaches is telling us? Because, there's a verse in the Bible that says something about being transformed in the twinkling of an eye. Okay, so twinkling of an eye should not take 12 weeks. Right? But there's also no time in God. So a twinkle in God's eye might be a millennia, but we can't stay alive that long. Okay? So it shouldn't take 12 weeks either. What is the core? What is that crux of that thing that each of these prosperity approaches are trying to teach us? And I think I stumbled upon it, and I call it the prosperity intention, okay? Because it's not necessarily a magic pill or formula that we do. It's how we live. The prosperity intention is how we live. Is it me, or are you guys hearing a little bit of feedback, or is it just me? Yeah, there's just a hear feedback. So you could turn me down just a little bit, because as I go through this, I'm going to probably get a little more excited and vocal and loud, and then you still have to turn me down anyways. So that feels a little bit better. Before I jump in any further, I want to ask you to agree to a few things with me. This is the hard agreements that I usually have for every workshop or class that I teach. Okay? There are basically three things. One, be present. Mind, soul, and body. Be present. Be here. Be conscious. Be open. Be willing to hear something that might transform you in a way you've not heard it before. Some of us might have been on this spiritual journey longer than I've been alive. I'm 40, by the way. So some of you might have been doing this work longer than I've been alive. I could probably learn from you. Okay? That doesn't mean that that we ever stop learning. So one, be open to that. Two, be mindful of your sharing. When we have opportunities and times to share, be mindful of it. And when I say be mindful of it, there's a spectrum of sharing. On this end, there's I'm going to be the pretty wallflower who just sits here and absorbs but says nothing. I have a lot of thoughts running through my mind, but I'm not going to share any of them. Then at the other end, we have I feel this is time to purge, and we just share and share. Okay? And we're fairly clear that when we start, we only got about 10 seconds worth of stuff to say, but 10 minutes in, we're just getting warmed up. So that's the opposite end of the spectrum. Try for somewhere in the healthy middle. Be mindful of your sharing, okay? And I say this in every class. I did a class one time at a church, and someone said, you and I have spoken before, and I was kind of had my feelings hurt because you said that, and I know you meant it for me, because I do tend to glad you heard, but I meant it for everybody. It's not just for you. So, yes. Okay. All right. Gotcha. I was gonna get to that. See, they're way ahead of me. This is like the best support staff here. So the third agreement that I usually ask for, but this time is going to be one of these with a little asterisk, is the confidentiality idea. That we usually agree that what says here stays here. However, we're broadcasting this to everyone who would care to check in. So the confidentiality thing doesn't necessarily really apply here. But I do want to make sure that you are aware that we are doing that so that other people, simply because of the context of this weekend and it being candidate tryout weekends, that other people can get an opportunity to see as well. So when you're sharing, if you're going to share something personal, be mindful of the extent to which you are comfortable sharing, because more than the people sitting in this room will probably be seeing it. And I'm actually going to, despite the instructions we heard, I'm going to insert a little caveat. I'm taking facilitator's prerogative here. If there's something you'd like to share, but you don't want the whole world to hear, you don't have to share it on mic. And we will hear in the room and the live stream. That's going to be I always look for a middle ground somewhere in between. So those are my kind of 3 hard agreements that I always invite people into. If you agree with these hard agreements, just say yes. Yes. If you would like to add some amendment to these hard agreements, I will take that as a no. And at some point, we will probably take like a collective restroom break, but at any time you need to avail yourself of the facilities, please feel free. I will not think you are walking out on the workshop. So go ahead. Some people are like, I can't go now. He's going to think I'm walking out on him. I will not think that. Even if you do walk out on me, that's okay. I will not take that personally either. Okay? Feel comfortable. And I mean that. If at any point during this workshop you feel, I can't do this anymore, for whatever reason, this is boring, this is uninteresting, I just remembered I left the kettle on the stove boiling with the hot water and I don't want to destroy that good antique kettle, or whatever reason that you feel you need, please, 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 you have my permission to do it. Feel comfortable doing it. I will not anyway offended or taken personally. Okay? Good. Now that we're all comfortable with each other, let's dive into this prosperity intention. Let's start with some definitions and some exploration. When you hear the word prosperity, what do you think? Riches. You think riches, all right? Riches is a good one. What else? Good life, abundance. You said what? Plenty, overflow, good health, overused. You want to say a little bit more about that? Okay. Family and friends. Poor spirit. Ooh, I like that. Make mental notes, steal that one. Or spirit. Sorry, appropriate with permission. Not worrying. Not worrying. As long as I give credit. Yeah, there was this lady in that Amesbury workshop who said this wonderful thing. There you go. Will that do for credit, or I need names? I got to put a name on it. Anyone else? Prosperity. When you hear this word, yes. Enough. I saw a hand here. You don't need a lot of money to be prosperous. Anyone else? I think someone did say plenty. Yeah, and there are no wrong answers, by the way, unless they are, and I'll tell you. But usually, generally, there's no wrong answers. No, there's no wrong answers. Happiness. Freedom, choice, contentment. What? Total freedom. Gotcha. I thought you said total fear, and I was like, wait, that what? I was like, let me repeat the question. You didn't quite get that. Total freedom. So these are all words that come to mind when we say the word prosperity. And we kind of each have our own little definitions about what that means. Let me read something to you. Prosperity is more than a simple word. It can denote our economic welfare. It can be a reflection of our self-worth. It can be something we aspire to or something that causes resentment. It is difficult to define. Case in point, there are over 24 Chinese characters that illustrate the various meanings of prosperity. Here's one of them, not up on my calligraphy, but this one represents the idea of abundance and plenty. Over 24 different characters that symbolize different elements and ideas of prosperity, many of which you have named here. It's an elusive thing, this prosperity. It can be visible or it can be invisible. We can see prosperity and abundance in our lives, but still not feel it. We can feel prosperous in spite of the fact that our life may not look that way by other people's or society's standards. So it's a nuanced thing, this idea called prosperity. But when we have seen visible prosperity, shows up in a lot of ways. Maybe riches, maybe good friends and family and relationships. A lot of different ways it can show up in our lives. Money in the bank, enoughness. It can show up in a lot of ways. But then there's this idea of the invisible prosperity, the unseen prosperity, the spiritual prosperity of knowing that regardless of the visible prosperity that we can see, still there. You all know who Thomas Merton is? Thomas Merton. He was a monk, 19th century, 20th century mystic. And he wrote this. He said, anxiety is a mark of spiritual insecurity. Say that again. Anxiety is a mark of spiritual insecurity. When we get anxious about life, we get anxious about what we think our prosperity should be, when we get anxious about anything at all, it's a mark that we have yet to really deepen ourselves into the spiritual truth that we are, not just in essence, but in actuality, the one power and the one presence that is God. Thomas Merton, M-E-R-T-O-N. Anxiety is a mark of spiritual insecurity. So I mentioned earlier in the little preamble, as I was driving over here, my fraud committee decided to, they've been dormant for quite a few years. They decided to wake up this morning, because of, I guess, what's happening this weekend. And I started to get anxious on the way over here. And then I remembered this same very quote. Anxiety is a mark of spiritual insecurity. What is it that I am not feeling secure about in the fact that me and everybody else who shows up here, no matter what their number, is the manifestation of God on earth? Why would I not remember that? But we don't, because we get in our humanness sometimes. And it happens. Charles Fillmore defined prosperity as the consciousness of God as the everywhere present resource. God being the abundance at the back of all things. God, the abundance at the back of all things. When I dissect that, it tells me that no matter what happens, what it looks like, that at the back of all things, there is abundance. That there is God. And there is opportunity. That's prosperity. Let's look at the word intention. When you hear the word intention, what comes to mind? Sorry, say again? On purpose. Setting forth. Focus, desire. Made a decision. Expect to do it. Okay? Any more? Intention. Because that's another word that we throw about in spiritual circles a lot. We throw around a lot of words that often we throw them around and we think we know what they mean. We think we know what we mean when we're saying them, but do we really know that we mean what we say we mean when we say them? Intention is movement, okay? Yeah. Commitment, okay? What else? You set an intention. What happens? What happens in you? What? Focus, awareness, a shift of consciousness towards it, an alignment. Wayne Dyer said, this about intention. And this was the thing that when I read it, it really shifted my thinking, and it really shifted my approach, and it really got me to say, I think this is what all these different prosperity courses are all about. And he wrote a book called The Power of Intention. And he says, intention is infinite potential activating your physical and non-physical appearance on earth. Read that again, because it's one of these things you got to hear and kind of like take in. Intention is infinite potential activating your physical and non-physical appearance on earth. What's infinite potential? What would we call that in unity? God. One power, one presence. Absolute good everywhere present. That is the infinite potential. This is the all there is. And it so happens that's who we are too. Hence the second unity basic principle. So the infinite potential is God, is us. The infinite potential, okay? Activating or physical and non-physical appearance. When we say activate, what do we mean? Motion, bring it alive, get it started, the on button, the turning the key in the ignition. That's activating. You want to feel activating? Stick a 9-volt battery on your tongue. Anyone ever done that? We know what's going to happen, but we do it more than once anyways, right? Right? Ooh! You know, that kind of tingly hurt. That's what activating is, that sizzle, that get things going. So what he's saying is intention is when the infinite potential, God, the one power, the one presence, the all that is us, when that kicks into gear and makes how we show up in the physical world and the non-physical parts of us, the mind, the emotions, the intellect, the feelings, when it kicks in to drive all of that, when that is the thing motivating us, that's when we're living intention. So intention is a little more than just, you know, our goals that we set and the thoughts we're having in our mind. Intention is when the God that is us gets our butt in gear and moving, not just physically, but in all other areas as well. That's intention. Intention is not a state of being. Intention is a state of action. Hence the word action. So when we combine these two, the prosperity intention is basically allowing God, Spirit, all that is, as and in us, move in, both in the physical and the invisible realm, into, from, and as abundance. I hope somebody wrote that down because I don't quite remember what I just. Re-archive, brilliant, because I'm going to want to watch that again. God, Spirit, whatever you want to call it, love, whatever it is that is the sum total allness of the visible and invisible, of which we are it too. You know, and this really speaks to our idea and definition of God. You know, people use the analogy, we're a drop in the ocean. We're not a drop in the ocean, we're the ocean in a drop. Okay? There's a distinctly different thing. That's not me, that's Rumi. I'll give credit where it's due. We are not a drop in the ocean, we are the ocean in a drop. The allness, and Eric Butterworth said this too. The fullness of God is fully present. The allness of God is fully present at every single point in the universe. I'm a point in the universe. I don't know what you are, but I am. You are too. You're a point in the universe, and God is fully present at the point of who you are. So all of that, the allness in God, is moving us into, through, and from a place of abundance. That's the prosperity intention. So then the question is, well, that sounds all great on paper. How do we live that in every single moment of our lives? How do we live that and get that to a place that it is so embedded in our subconscious that we don't even have to think about it? That's what we're going to look at today. That's what we're going to look at, because when we live from that place, we get to what I like to call a life fulfilled. If there's any reason we're here on this planet, it's to be fulfilled. Be fulfilled. And last count, there were 7 billion of us walking around. That means there's 7 billion ways of fulfillment. Count the ones we could dream of, then there are a few more. But 7 billion ways. I believe that if every single person on this planet can find a way to get to a life that is fulfilled, we would have peace on this earth. It's a tall order. I don't know that I'll see it in my lifetime, but that's what I believe the secret is. That's the secret to world peace. You heard it here first. Secret to world peace. Get into a life that is fulfilled. So one of the things that gets in our way of getting to this place of a fulfilled life is that we think we know what it means. We think we know what we want to get a life that is fulfilled. We think we know. But what our definition and our checklist of that has been informed by a lot of things. Our upbringing, our culture, where we live, what era we live in, our age, anything, any of those things influence what it means. But guess what? As human beings, we are more alike than we are different. And we all have some basic core needs. I'm going to pass out a sheet here. On one side, and this comes from nonviolent communication. Some of you might be familiar with that idea. But this basically is a list of the things that we need, our core needs. Because I believe that when we get our core needs met, this is where we're going to be. And each of us have different priorities of core needs. So I'm going to pass out the sheet. On one side is a needs inventory. What I want you to do is look at this list and go through it and circle the top 10. It's going to, don't read through the whole list. Don't just start circling from the beginning. You're going to run out of 10 real quick. Go through this list, circle the 10 of these needs. Don't look at the other side of the sheet. Scout's honor. I'm giving you this honor system here. Don't look at the back yet. I know that in saying that, there are some of you who are going to flip the sheet over, okay? But don't do that yet. I said let's do it double-sided to save paper. Originally, it was like 2 separate sheets. Well, we're going to save paper. We got to help the environment out. So we're looking at the side that says needs inventory. Okay? Circle the 10 things that as you read this list, and not the 10 things that you may have now or not, but 10 things that when you read them, you go, yeah, like my soul is really resonating with this. That if this is in my life, whether it is now or you want it in your life, that will go like, yeah, I would feel a deep sense of fulfillment and peace if I was on there. Yes?
I was curious, how many do you
A lot.
Yeah.
I haven't counted. I've never counted that list, but there are a lot. Anyone needs a pen or something to press on? Oh, you guys got folders. Wonderful. So let's. I'll give you about 3 to 5 minutes. I don't think you need more than that. There's 7 categories, so you hit 1 from each category maybe, and you got a couple extras left over. Where's Jane? Is Jane around? Uh-huh. I love her. Like, that was just exactly what I was going to ask about.
Yes.
She's a step ahead of me every way. Cheating? How is he cheating? There's always one. It's okay. If there's any consolation, that was, if I was sitting there, that would be me too. Don't look, why not? That's like the first thing I do. Oh, so I guess I should tell the live streamers that. So Jane is in the process of uploading this document so that you can see it as well at some point. Do we have our 10? Okay. And if you get to 10 and you realize there's another one you can't live without, and it's 11. All right. Show of hands who've got their 10. That's good. Now, take those 10, narrow them down to the top 3. Top 3. Top 3 needs that you were going through this list that really resonated with you. Like, yeah, this is what feeling fulfilled is all about. This is what feeling the wholeness is. This is what will bring all those words we talked about earlier, the happiness, the content, all of that. And maybe you're in a place where that need is being met right now in your life. Not about what's not there, but this is kind of like the both and. What you've realized and you're living, or maybe what you've realized and are still working on. Top 3. Okay. All right, you have your top 3? Wonderful. Flip the sheet over now. Or again. I was reaching for my papers and had to turn my body in that direction. There was no accusation. So feelings when your needs are satisfied. How do we know when we've got to that place of feeling fulfilled? How will we know? Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're still trying and struggling because we don't know we've gotten there. How do we know? This is how we know. These are feelings, and there's a lot of them on here. You know, as humans, when we talk about how you feeling today, we don't always got this sheet to pull from. Like, I remember the first time I saw this sheet, and I thought, I didn't even know there were this. When you are fulfilled, how do you think you will feel when you are fulfilled? And if you're curious about that, well, maybe think back to a time when you did something that you felt 80 feet tall, that you felt like, you know what, life can end right here. I've done it. This is boom. Think back to a time like that. If you don't have a time like that, go back to that needs inventory and your 10 and your 3 and think, if these were in my life, how do I imagine I would feel? And go to work on your feelings. Start with 10 to 15. Start with the 10 to 15. And then, yes, narrow it down to 3. It's, we going from macro to micro. We're getting focused. You know what's my favorite word on this list, by the way? Because I can't be content just to let you work. I got to interrupt. My favorite word on this list, under the category that says exhilarated, so it's like the third column from the left, all the way at the bottom, above thrilled, with the word that says rapturous. If that word doesn't literally just wrap you in the idea of lifting yourself up, rapturous. And those of us who may come from a traditional Christian context, the word rapture has a whole other connotation, But when you think about it, it kind of describes the feeling exactly. You are being so caught up in that moment that nothing else around you matters. Rapturous. No copying over there. All right. She needs help. Did we at least find our first 10 to 15 words yet? Our first 10 to 15 feelings? Did we get that? Are we? Okay. 9. Hey, you don't have to make the 10. It's just a suggestion. All right. When you get a good, decent chunk of words, 9 to 14 or something, I don't know. Yeah, narrow it down to the top 3. And imagine yourself in that emotion and that feeling. So like I said, my favorite word on that list was rapturous, and I've described how it feels for me. Well, I am so caught up in the moment of the thing. Time has no meaning, hunger has no meaning, exhaustion has no meaning. I have tapped into the boundless source of abundant energy that is the universe, and I can go bam, 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 bam. And how I know I felt it is because when it's over, like, I hit a wall, and I'm like, I want to collapse. And that rapturous moment could have been 3 minutes, or it could have been 3 hours. It don't make a difference. Time loses no meaning. Time loses all meaning, sorry. Time has no meaning, loses all meaning. All right. Here's what we're going to do now. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18. Maybe we'll count you as 20 just so to make this easy. So, over. Put yourselves into 5 groups of 4. Self-select. I don't matter. Oh, you know what? No, we can do it differently. I'll self-select you. So count off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Start again. 1. Remember your number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You are 1. We're going to make life easy for you and make people come to you. So all the 1s over here, all the 2s over here, all the 3s over here, all the 5s over here. Just to be different, all the 4s over here. There you go. So get with your numbers, huddle up in the circle, and again, to your comfort. Well, I'll give directions after everybody moves. Huddle up, huddle up. 2s over here, 1s over here, 3s over here, 5s over here, 4s over here. There's only 3 3s. That means somebody ain't moved. There we go. There should be 4 of you in each group, if my math is correct. First order of business. First order of business. If perchance you don't know everybody in your group, introduce yourselves. Wait, not yet. Hang on. So, introduce yourselves quickly. And by quickly, just mean, hi, I am. Pleased to meet you. We don't need the whole biography right now. Quick introduction. Okay. Wait for it. Wait, there's more instructions. That's why I like to give instructions in reverse order sometimes. Okay. After you introduce yourselves to your level of comfort, okay, share your top 3 needs, and the top 3 feelings when you're in that moment of feeling fulfilled, or you imagine you would be. Here's the caveat. When you share the word of the feeling from the feeling list, you have to say it, conveying the feeling. So when I said rapturous, I did a whole did you notice when I said it before? I did a whole body thing. It was like rapturous, caught up in the moment. This is where you get to communicate with not just your words, but with your feeling, with intention, with the God that who you are activating you. You're probably thinking, I wish I'd stayed at home right now. But it's too late. You're here, and I've got you. So, introduce yourselves quickly. Share your needs, your top 3. Share your top 3 feelings with feeling. Go. You got 10 minutes. Now, I don't want to interrupt. Well, I do actually. Now, you know they say you should never make assumptions, right? You know why? To you and me. So I'm not going to make an assumption, but I already realized that I have, so I'm confessing my assumption. I'm assuming that none of you in these groups have gotten to your feeling words yet, because I ain't seeing a whole lot of. So again, it could be erroneous on my part. I will admit it, but I'm looking for actual. I did hear a strong exuberance over here. It did sound a little exuberant, but I didn't see her jump out of the chair. And again, how you do it is up to you. I'm not giving any hints. So I'm done assuming, and I'll let y'all do your thing. So part of the interruption, put some feeling into your feel. That's what I'm talking about. I believe you now. There we go. Now we're cooking with butter. Yes, I am aware this might be an introvert's nightmare, but that's why I put you in smaller groups. Watch the live stream, you just go to unityontheriver.org. Okay. Don't act that one out, please. That not the time or place. But I appreciate you being honest about it. There's always somebody who says that. There always is, and it's kind of fun. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Has everyone had a chance to go yet? If you have not yet had a chance to go, raise your hand. If you've not yet had a chance. Okay, so it looks like everybody got a chance to do some sharing. Okay. How did it, to not overuse the word feel, but how did it feel to share your feeling with feeling? There you go. If you're struggling for words, you have a whole sheet in front of you. Just saying. It feel a little strange. Why did it feel a little strange? Do you think? Strained. Strained meaning like not. Like, how do I express this? Yeah. Not verbally. Right. So it might have been a little weird, a little strange, a little out of the ordinary. I think it is that for a few reasons. Yes, one, this is a manufactured context. But two, I think it's that way because a lot of us either A, haven't truly felt these feelings before, or B, weren't in touch with feeling them when we may have been in the experience of them. Maybe we didn't have words to put to it before. But for me, when I think of a life that's fulfilled, when I think of that, I think of, I want to feel these things. I want to be able to share that I've felt these things. And when I feel these things, that's how I know I'm on the right track towards my fulfillment. When I'm getting excited, when I'm like, I shared with Jim, where's Jim? There's Jim. Shared with Jim this morning. So Jim's landing, folks, is convertible, okay? And I came yesterday and spent 2.5 hours talking with the staff here. And it was fascinating because the conversation started with Jane saying, so we don't really have any list of questions. It's just thought we'd sit for a while and chat. Okay, so in my head, I was like, yeah, we'd probably be here an hour tops. Okay, 2.5 hours later, it's like we got to go somewhere else, got to have dinner. We're having dinner with the board. We got to go somewhere else, so we need to wrap this up. But 2.5 hours later, we are still in the conversation. And it was fun and exciting, and we were sharing stories, and we were laughing, and when I left there, I was in such an excited place that I hop in this convertible. It's like 50-something degrees out, and I'm driving down the road. I was so excited. It was generating so much heat in me that it was only like 5 to 10 minutes later when I couldn't feel my ears. I was like, why am I so cold, right? Because I'm in a convertible, and it's 50-something degrees out. What am I thinking? And the sun's going down. But I was such in that place after talking with the staff yesterday and connecting with them and truly remembering, identifying with, the call to be here. When I was in that place, nothing else had meaning. Time had no meaning. Somebody had been like, we got a place to be. 2.5 hours felt like 2.5 minutes. How often do we have that in our lives, that feeling, And it's not that if you're not having it, you've done anything wrong. Maybe you're not having it because you didn't know you were supposed to be having it. But now that you know, and in some way, when I ask you to share your word with feeling, in a way, it's kind of getting you into that place of trying to be able to identify with the feeling, not just intellectually define it, but understand it. Feel it in your bones and your core. You can't shout the word, was it amazing that you yelled out? You can't yell out amazing and not feel a little bit amazed. You know what I'm saying? We won't do the sex thing. We won't shout that out right now. Somebody yelled that over here and I said, don't act it out. Let me check in with you guys. Are you feeling like you want to take a break? Are you good to push on? Anybody needs to take a stretch break, bathroom break, anything? Did I hear a yes? Okay, great. Let's take a 7 minutes. So by that clock, I'm going to start again at 11:15. I'm going to start, or 10, what is that? That's 11, yeah. So 7-minute break and return. And I'm starting at 7 minutes on the dot. I'm starting at 11:15 on the dot. Yes. 2-minute warning, 2-minute warning. If we were at a theater, I'd be flashing the lights right now. 2-minute warning. Flash the lights. 2-minute warning. Sure, yes, you can return to your original seats when you come back in. Sit wherever you want, actually. You don't have to be original seat. You can sit wherever you want. That's okay. Sit wherever you want.
1680.
30-second warning, 30-second invitation, sorry, not warning. 30-second invitation. Back. 30 seconds. $30 back. Feels about 15 seconds. Good one. She's like, I can't go, I got 30 seconds. All right, do a countdown. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! All right. So we've got this taste of truly what fulfillment means when we have stepped into this knowing of deep abundance, when we stepped into this prosperity intention of living from our Christ nature, that truth of our wholeness. So what's stopping us? What stops us from doing that all the time? What is stopping us? Why is it sometimes so difficult to be a fully realized Christ being? What gets in our way? I believe, what's that? No, go ahead.
Getting caught on
Uh-huh.
that was so rewarding.
Right. And we often do that because it's been a message that's been implanted in us. It's been an embedded message that we have received from the time we were kids, when we were young kids, that formed how we view the world and how we view fulfillment and we view success. We receive so many embedded messages between the ages of basically 0 and 2 that still, for the most part, is how we operate and we see the world. I mentioned one of them earlier during my preamble, the fraud complex, that one day they're going to figure out I don't know what I'm doing, and then they're going to come get me. And I got that message because when I was really young, one of the messages that I received was, if you don't prepare enough, you are going to fail, and you can't fake your way through it because people are going to see through you. Another embedded messages, and bear in my soul. These are the top 2 messages that I received as a child, not intentionally, mind you, but I received, or rather, I interpreted that was the message. Let's be clear about that. That's the message I interpreted was being given to me. That has affected me my entire life, and if I don't pay attention, still comes up and affects me, like the fraud complex committee that suddenly appeared on my way over here. It kind of surprised me. It was like, well, hey, old friends, where y'all been all this time? The other one is that children are to be seen and not heard. That one, it was particularly vicious for me because I grew up my entire life not feeling empowered to express what I wanted in life. It's affected negatively every single relationship I've been in, every job I've been in, because I didn't feel empowered. And when I don't feel empowered to speak, I tell myself, okay, you know what? I'm not going to interrupt the status quo. I'm not going to make a fuss. I'm not going to make waves. I'm going to keep the peace by keeping silent. And all that did was build up resentment within me. When we live in a place of resentment and anger, we have blocked the flow of abundance in our lives. We all have these messages. We all have these messages that have been embedded within us. Some of us are very aware of them, and some of us are not. So here's what I want to do. I want to take a few minutes. I'm going to ask you to move everything off your lap. And we're going to do a little bit of like a guided meditation here. You want to close your eyes, take a breath, and perhaps get in touch a little bit with that inner infant, that inner child. The one that's perhaps still a little wounded. The one that has internalized some message. Not reflect the truth of the Christ nature of who you are. It could be a message about your parents. It could be a message about what it means to be successful. It could be a message about how others think about you. What will the neighbors think? Somewhere within us, our inner child has internalized these messages, and it's been take a moment. Breathe into that wounded place. You know or become aware of one of those messages, just quickly say them out loud. As they come to you, jot them down. What is that inner message that I received as a child? It seeks to steal my joy. Believe that holds me back, feeling the true abundance and fulfillment. Feel complete. Return your Here's the thing about these messages. Good news and the bad news. We'll start with the bad news first. The bad news is they're not going anywhere. You're never going to get rid of them. They're called embedded for a reason. Embedded means that they were probably some of your first formative beliefs. So they are like rock solid in there. They're not going anywhere. That's the bad news. The good news is you can live in a place of peace and contentment with them and not let them influence befriend them. So like today in the car as I was driving over, and my fraud complex committee showed up, it was almost a delightful surprise. Well, hey guys, I haven't seen you in a while. Where you been? Oh, that's right. I learned not to listen to you. But for some reason, you snuck back in. All right, well, welcome back. We got a few minutes of a lovely drive here. Let's have a conversation. By the time I got here, they were silenced again. Okay? The message doesn't go away, but you learn how to be with it. And how we learn how to be with it is by reframing the meaning of the message. We reframe it so that when it comes up, we know how to respond. So, for example, the message of children are to be seen and not heard. How many of you did the 12 powers or know about the 12 powers, done 12 power class? So 12 powers, there's the power of power. You know where the power of power located in your body? Anybody remembers? Throat. In your throat. My very first job that I got out of college was a job, I was a music therapist, and I was working in the public school system. And they hired music therapists to work with children who had special needs in their public schools. Because they realized that that a regular music class set in with band and the instruments and all that wasn't going to work. Some of these children had severe anger management issues, and else with the clarinet. Some of these children had severe physical and developmental disabilities. So they realized, we need to hire a music therapist. But we were still in the public school, and how many of you have been teachers? Any teachers in the room? As we know, sometimes the issue is never when you're in the class with the kids, it's always the administration and all the other things that go on around you that makes your job so frustrating sometimes, okay? That first year, I felt so powerless in my job. Within the first 5 months, I lost my voice. Yeah, I lost my voice. And I hadn't done the 12 powers work yet, but I had a really good uni minister who said, well, what's going on with you? And I described the situation. I was kind of talking like this the whole time. And she said, let's talk about the 12 powers. And when I saw that thing, I was like, light bulb went off. I was like, that's exactly what it is. I felt powerless. Sometimes we feel powerless to these messages. We feel like they come up and there's nothing we can do about it. There's something we can do. We can reframe it. So that message that children are to be seen and not heard, I interpret that to mean that I don't get to have a voice. Okay? But guess what? I do get to have a voice. Not only do I have to have a voice, but ultimately when it comes down to it, the words that come out of my mouth are actually meaningless. My words are meaningless. I can say anything, but how are you going to believe me? I can say anything, but how are you going to believe what I'm saying? By what? I show up in the world. How we show up in the world is a greater indicator of what we believe than the words we say. We can speak oneness and love till we are blue in the face, but until we actually do it, remember, love is an action, not a noun. Verb, not a noun. So unless we do it, people aren't going to believe us. Fifth unity principle. It ain't enough to know it. You have to live it. So I got to reframe that message. Yeah. I am to be seen and not heard. That is absolutely true, because I am to live the truth. I am to live the truth that I believe. You need to see me doing it. It's got to show up in my actions, not my words. That's how you know what I believe. How do I know that you believe in gender equality? I know you believe in gender equality when, as an employer, you pay your women exactly the same amount you pay your men. That's how I believe you. You can tell me till you're blue in the face, but I'm not going to believe you till I see that. How do I know what you believe? When I see it and not hear it. So I had to reframe that message. So from now on, every time I feel myself in that place of maybe a little bit of powerlessness, maybe a little bit of, they don't want to hear what I have to say, maybe a little place of just be quiet and don't. Life is my message. That's how I've reframed the scene and not. My life is my message. You will see me. And by seeing me, by seeing my actions, by seeing my life, you will hear what I believe way beyond words can ever indicate. Fraud complex. I'm so glad you mentioned the word frog. Fraud rhymes with frog. Easy to remember. You know what frog stands for, right? Fully rely on God. I know you were, but it was good. That's what frog stands for. Fully rely on God. So when my fraud complex committee rears its ugly head, as it did in the car over, I remember instead of being a fraud, I will be a frog. I will fully rely on God. I will remember first unity principles. There's one power, there's one presence in the universe. It's God, it's good, it's omnipotent, it's all that is, and I am that too. So there is no fraud in me. There is no lie. There is no untruth. All there is God. That I will rest my assurance. Fraud, I am a frog. Ribbit, ribbit. So I've reframed these messages because the messages are not going away. They're so deep buried within our psyche. So deep. And their tendrils have reached out and incorporated themselves in every area in our consciousness. But guess what? We can give them new meaning. So here's what I want you to do. Get your message. Spend a little time with it. About 3 or 4 minutes. Maybe 5. We'll give you 5 for this one. And frame it. You can use exactly the same words. Give them different meaning. Rewrite the words, flip it around, invert it, turn it inside out, whatever you want to do. Spend about 5 minutes doing that. Then we're going to get back in our small groups and let you share with each other. And if you're having trouble, perhaps if you want to, you can ask somebody else in your small group, help me out with this, I'm struggling with this. Because sometimes it's easier to see it for other people than we see it for ourselves. Okay, if it resonates with you. We're going to do some reframing. And then when we come back, I'll tell you the importance of this step and how it links into the prosperity intention. Okay? So, yes, 5 minutes now to reframe your messages. And then when I give you the word, you'll break into your small groups, take another 5 to 10 minutes to share with each other. Any questions? Anything needed clarified right now? Mm-hmm. It can be that simple. Or it can be even deeper than that. It can be even deeper than that. So let me work with that real quick, for example. Yes. So her question was, she's got the phrase, I am not important. Okay, so the 2 ways you can do that, you can simply do the opposite, I am important, or you can take it to an even deeper level to realize that in the grand scheme of things, relative to everybody else, you're not, because everybody is. Everybody is important. Everybody, we are all one. We are all connected. We are all at our core the same. We are all of equal important value. Sometimes when we say I am important or I'm not important, it's because we are holding ourselves in comparison to others. Well, if we are all exactly the same oneness, there's no comparison. None of us are important. But we are all important. You see, we could take that to deeper level than just simply saying, I am important. Yeah. All right. Go to work. All right, go ahead and, even if you're still writing, go back to your small groups. I think we had 2s over here, 1s over here, 3s, 5s, and 4s. And as you're comfortable sharing, share your embedded message, share the reframing of it. And sometimes in sharing that embedded message, you may need to share just a briefest of stories behind it. Brief, very brief, the briefest of stories for explanation. Take about 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. So let me have your attention. We may still be in the process of sharing, and this workshop is something that I probably would normally do for a much longer period of time to give you more time to get in depth and do more sharing. So feel free to continue this work, when you go home. It's not just to do it here. We got a few minutes left, but there is time if there's 1 or 2 people who might be wanting to be willing to share their message and their reframing with the whole group. If you want to do that, again, no pressure, and it's okay if we don't. I just want Yes, let's get a mic. Let me grab the microphone. If you don't mind sharing. It is okay if you don't have the mic, yeah. So what do you believe? You've done some work and reframing it. Consider what I'm about to say. Take it on. If you love is conditional, if we believe there's anything other than love. This is how we all get into that love is conditional. also believe that love we may erroneous. But it hurts to love when we're loving from the human definition of love and not from the we love from the divine definition of love. Charles Fillmore calls love the great harmonizer. When we love from that place of realizing that love is a thing that connects us all, makes us all one in and as God, when we come from that place, we don't ever get wounded by love. When we come from the place of conditionality, I feel love because it looks, feels like this. Then we can always be disappointed. Buddha said attachment is the root of all suffering. So when we create attachments about what love needs to look like, there's gonna be suffering. Truly get to that deeper message of what live in God. It is unconditional because it's all there is. No other condition other than that divine love. Thank you for the work that you've already done to reframe that. For what I said, these things are embedded in us. There, and it's not that it's a lifelong struggle, it's a lifelong conversation we have with that. Say to that child, I'm sorry that you got wounded. Guess what? We get to reframe it, because when we don't reframe these embedded messages, they get in the way of feeling those feelings that we so joyously shared earlier. They get in the way of living as intention. This is what our third unity principle is about. When we talk about creating our life experiences through our thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, that's what that's about. You want to create the experience of fulfillment. One of those steps is reframing those messages that we got that are still wreaking havoc with us. Reframe them, befriend them. The more we try to stamp them out, the more they're going to be. Remember that saying, what we resist persists? So don't resist them. Befriend them. Befriend that wounded child and say, I hear you. I'm sorry you're wounded this way. Make sure you come into tomorrow's talk. We're talking about forgiveness, Ho'oponopono, Hawaiian forgiveness. Powerful stuff. But that's also going to help with this process as well. Because then when they come up again, we are no longer wounded all over again. It's like when we take a fall. When I was 7 years old, it's my last story about me. When I was, I think, 7 or 8 years old, I was running and I fell and on a stone step, and it caught me right here. It's actually still a little scar. I can think back to that. I don't remember exactly where the step was or why I was running, if I was just playing or whatever. But I still have in my mind the vision of that step doing this, coming towards my face, and then nothing. The next memory I have is being in my parents' arms as we are massive amounts of blood, and well, we were in Barbados, not the best medical care. We sat in the emergency quite a while, and the bleeding kind of stopped, and my parents, being my parents, were like, "Hey, he looks all right. Let's go put some ice on it." So I really hit my head as a child. It could explain a lot. But I can see that happening, but I don't feel the pain of it all over again. I can think of some really emotionally painful points in my past. I can see them and think of them, but don't feel the pain all over again. And many times we keep reliving the pain. I don't feel the pain anymore. Why? Because I've reframed them. And in the reframing them, I've kind of befriended them. And in befriending them, I now use them almost as my ally to remind me that my life is about living a prosperity intention, that my life is about living that activity of God that reminds me that this is an abundant universe and I am fulfilled. Until 12. Thank you all for being here today, watching. Bring this to a close. I will stay here for a few more minutes if anyone has any more questions, thoughts, if you ran into some trouble with your reframing and you want to take a little deeper with me here. Thoughts that people need to share. You okay with us closing in prayer? There's a survey that people need to do. Do they have the survey sheets, or do we need to give it to them? Know what to do with them? Yes. Okay. Feel free to email me at any point in time if you wanna converse, take email. revogan@uniforall.org. If you want to email me also to tell me that you disagree with, I'll take those too. Feedback you want, I know you got feedback forms for them, but you can email me as well. What's that? Sure. Laura, I don't think it makes a difference in email if you type uppercase. But yeah, I write uppercase just so you can read it better. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you as you are going through this and being with this. And you're not just doing this for you. I hate to break this to you. Good that you're doing it for you, but when you do it and you were transformed, the rest of us benefit from it as well. Do us all a favor and transform yourself, please. Let us close in prayer. Let's do a circle, if you don't mind. So, feeling Mother Earth beneath us, the love from the hearts across the circle from us. Give thanks because it is through this that we become the physical embodiment of God. Great harmonizer, all that is. your time today. I appreciate you all. And sorry, I say no pressure, but I better see y'all tomorrow here. That's all I'm saying.